We look up at the stars. We gaze into the vast, silent cosmos. And we can't help but ask the big questions. Why are we here? Is there a purpose to all this? And perhaps the most difficult question of all, if there is a good and powerful force behind the universe, why does it allow so much pain? This isn't a new question. In fact, it is an ancient one. We find this very struggle etched into the pages of an old book, a conversation between a man and his God. This man was a prophet. His name was Habakkuk. Unlike other prophets who spoke for God, Habakkuk begins by speaking to God. He doesn't just deliver a message, he demands one. He stands before the Creator of all things, not with simple, quiet reverence, but with a heart full of anguish. He sees a world broken by violence and injustice. He sees the wicked prospering while the righteous suffer. And he cannot reconcile this reality with the God he believes in. His words are not those of a skeptic trying to disprove. They are the cries of a believer trying to understand. It is one of the most honest, raw, profoundly human moments in Scripture. A man looking at the chaos of his world and asking the timeless question, why? This conversation is not a rebellion. It is a relationship. It is the kind of raw honesty that can only exist where there is a deep underlying trust. Habakkuk is not turning his back on God. The prophet's heart is heavy. He looks out upon his own nation, Judah, and what he sees breaks him. O Lord, how long shall I cry for help, and you will not hear? Cry of desperation, endless silence. He is a sentinel, a watchman for his people. The view from his post is bleak. He sees violence everywhere. He sees strife. He sees contention rising like a fever. The law has become paralyzed, numb. Systems meant to protect the innocent have failed. Justice never goes forth. The wicked surround the righteous. They manipulate the courts. They bend the rules. They twist the truth. Judgments are rendered, but they are crooked. Habakkuk is trapped in a world upside down. Evil rewarded. Goodness punished. He watches the moral fabric decay. He feels utterly helpless. God seems distant, unresponsive. This is a theological crisis for Habakkuk. Why, God? Why are you silent while your world burns? Why force me to look at injustice and tolerate misery? And then, after the prophet's desperate cry fills the void, the silence is broken. God answers. But the answer is not what Habakkuk expected. It is not the comfort he sought. It is not a promise to immediately restore justice in Judah. Instead, it is something terrifying. Something world-altering. God says, "Look among the nations and see, wonder, and be astounded. For I am doing a work in your days that you would not believe if told." God is not inactive. He is not indifferent. He has been setting a plan in motion. The instrument of this unbelievable work? The Chaldeans, also known as the Babylonians. God declares that he is raising up this nation, and his description of them is chilling. They are a bitter and hasty people, a dreadful and fearsome empire. They march across the breadth of the earth, seizing lands that are not their own. Their own might is their God. Their horses are swifter than leopards, more fierce than the evening wolves. Their cavalry comes from afar, swooping down like an eagle rushing to devour its prey. It is a terrifying answer, a form of cosmic surgery using a bloody, unsterilized knife. Habakkuk is left reeling. He wanted justice, but he never imagined this. The prophet is stunned into a second round of questioning. The first answer has not brought him peace. It has brought him deeper horror. He retreats to his watchtower, a symbolic place of waiting and watching. I will take my stand at my watchpost and station myself on the tower, and look out to see what he will say to me. He is positioning himself to continue the argument. His first complaint was about God's inaction. His second complaint is about God's action. It protests the nature of God's chosen instrument. How could this be the solution? He begins his second complaint by reaffirming what he knows about God. Are you not from everlasting, O Lord my God, my Holy One? He clings to God's eternal, pure nature. Your eyes too pure to look on evil. You cannot tolerate wrong. If God cannot even bear to look at evil, how can he then turn around and use the epitome of evil, violent, arrogant, idolatrous Babylonians, as his sacred tool of justice? It seems like a blatant contradiction. The prophet now waits, steadfast on his tower, for God to answer this even more difficult question. Standing on his metaphorical watchtower, Habakkuk waits. He has lodged his complaint with the high court of heaven, and now, expects a reply. And once again, God speaks. The answer comes not as a simple explanation, but as a command and a promise. Write the vision. Make it plain on tablets, so he may run who reads it. This is not a private whisper for the prophet alone. This is a public proclamation. It is a message that needs to be recorded, displayed, understood by all. It is a truth so important that a messenger should be able to read it at a glance and run to spread the word. God then provides the crucial context for this vision. For the vision is yet for an appointed time. It hastens to the end. It will not lie. This is the first key to unlocking the puzzle. God operates on a different timeline than we do. His justice may seem slow by our impatient human standards, but it is not absent. There is an appointed time for everything. The reign of the wicked. It all has an expiration date. Within God's second answer lies a single, powerful phrase. It is the very hinge upon which the entire book, and perhaps all of biblical theology, turns. God sets up a great contrast. Behold, he says, his soul is puffed up. It is not upright within him. He is speaking of the arrogant one, the Babylonian. Pride, power, self-reliance. He is puffed up like a bubble. And like a bubble, he is destined to pop. His foundation is unstable. This is the path of the wicked. It is a path that leads inevitably to destruction. Then comes the contrast. The alternative. The path of life. But the righteous shall live by his faith. This is the core of the message. It is the answer to Habakkuk's deepest turmoil. In a world where justice is perverted and violence seems to win, how does a good person survive? Not by their own strength, not by understanding every detail of God's plan, not by seeing immediate results. They survive, they truly live, by faith. Faith is the anchor in the storm. Having given Habakkuk the anchor of faith, God does not stop there. He proceeds to pronounce a series of 5 woes upon the Babylonians. This is the vision Habakkuk was told to write down, a detailed prophecy of the downfall of the proud. God's assurance, the instrument of judgment will be judged. The woes are a divine indictment, spelling out specific sins and their consequences. Woe 1. The first woe, insatiable greed and exploitation. Woe to him who heaps up what is not his own, and makes himself rich with pledges. They built an empire on plunder and theft. The conquered will rise and plunder them. The cycle of violence will consume them. Woe 3. The third woe, bloodshed. Woe to him who builds a town with blood. Babylon's splendor was built on violence. Their labor will be for nothing, their work consumed by fire. But God's purpose stands, for the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. Woe 5. The fifth woe, idolatry. Woe to him who says to a wooden thing, awake, to a silent stone, arise. They worship lifeless idols of wood and stone. The true God is alive in his holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before him. Habakkuk's epic struggle concludes with one of the most powerful and beautiful declarations of faith ever written. He paints a picture of complete and utter devastation. Though the fig tree should not blossom, nor fruit be on the vines, the produce of the olive, fail the fields yield no food, the flock be cut off from the fold, and there be no herd in the stalls. This is not a metaphor. It is a portrait of total economic collapse, starvation, and ruin. In this scenario of absolute loss, one would expect a cry of despair. One would expect a final, bitter complaint. But Habakkuk does the unthinkable. He chooses joy. Yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will take joy in the God of my salvation. This is the climax of his journey. His joy is no longer dependent on his circumstances. It is not tied to the fig tree, the vine, or the flock. His joy has found a new, unshakable foundation, God himself, the God of his salvation. This is the ultimate expression of living by faith. He concludes his song by declaring, God, the Lord, is my strength. He makes my feet like the deer's. He makes me tread on my high places. The deer's feet are agile and sure, able to navigate treacherous high-altitude terrain. Because our strength is not in our circumstances, but in our Creator.